Here's a major TikTok ban update. You want to listen to this one because there's a lot. There's a lot this time. So the Biden administration indicated late Thursday, January 16th, that it has no plans to enforce the TikTok ban, and it's going to leave it up to the Trump administration to figure out what to do. Now, what does that mean when it says don't enforce? If you don't know, the law will issue potentially penalties on Apple and Google if TikTok stays in the Google Play Store or the Apple Store after the 19th. So they're saying that we won't enforce that fine. Now it's up to then Apple and Google to believe the administration, given that the next administration has indicated that he plans to keep it. And his Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, who I just talked about in a previous video, she does whatever Donald Trump says. So most likely they will not enforce it, but it's still up to Apple and Google to be like, all right, okay, sure. Now, what are the options for Donald Trump when he gets after he gets inaugurated on Monday? He has a few options, but one option, the law gives the president at the time, so it would be Donald Trump, a one-time 90-day extension. However, there are conditions. 3 conditions have to be met. 1, they have to already have a buyer in the works they're working with. 2, there has to be evidence that they're already substantially along, that they're actually doing something. And 3, there has to be actual paperwork. They can't be like, yeah, we're working with what's his face. He has to have proof. Now, how this can work is if ByteDance all along had already selected or, looked at the various different offers and already started negotiations and had this as a plan B in their pocket just in case the situation like this happens, in which case we're all good and gravy. But we have heard that ByteDance is not interested in selling, so that's going to be a wrinkle in the plan. 2, the second thing that Donald Trump can do, which is not going to be effective because he did it back in 2020 and it didn't work, is issue an executive order. As I've said, there's 3 branches of government. If you have Congress pass this law, if the Supreme Court tomorrow issues an opinion upholding the law, that's 2 out of 3. There's no way Donald Trump's going to overrule that and it won't get challenged. Who's going to challenge it? I also want you guys to not think of this as Republican versus Democrat, because as we know, a Democrat, Ed Markey, tried to save it with a unanimous consent bill, and a Republican, Tom Cotton, went and said no. And if you look at the Friends of the Court amicus curiae briefs that were filed in this case at the Supreme Court, they're all over the map. We have all sorts of pleadings and briefs from state governments. Mitch McConnell, who's the current House Speaker, a Republican, he filed his own brief in favor of the government banning it. And it's just all over the map. It's not a Democrat or Republican thing. It's about people interested in national security, and they'll say, well, over like the interests of the public and all the people who rely on TikTok to make a living and things like that. So it's all over the map. So if Donald Trump were to do an executive action, it would get challenged. And what happened last time? He would lose. He lost last time because he doesn't have the authority. There's this process. So again, like I mentioned, we still have the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court hasn't issued their opinions yet. They released a bunch of opinions on Wednesday, a lot of interesting ones, and they probably was teed up to release this one on Friday, knowing the deadline's on Sunday. They don't work on Saturday. I don't know. Do they release on Saturday? I don't know. So if it's a Monday through Friday work sort of situation, we can expect it tomorrow. So the Supreme Court could say that the United States government overstepped the bounds when they banned it and said it was not narrowly tailored, and they had other options. TikTok has said 3 options were: 1, they could have an alert or some sort of risk, so you come in, flash, and know that it's a risk. 2, they said that they can give the United States government access to their, to let them fine them, and they promise not to do it. If they're caught, they'll get fines and forfeitures. And they've also said that, well, we can also issue, just a promise not to do data. What was the other one? There's a couple other things. During the debate, there was mention of a firewall, and I believe, I got to go look at the transcript again, but the solicitor, Elizabeth Perlagar, who's representing the government, said, I never knew about this firewall y'all talking about. And Noel Francisco, who's representing TikTok, was like, yeah, well, y'all broke down talks too fast. So what that means is this time, if they were able to buy some time somehow, we can perhaps, work together and say, okay, well, if there's an option, there's a technical option that saves us from all of this mess, then, hey, let's explore that. So if that's an option, a technical option where TikTok doesn't have to sell it, and whatever the technical thing they're going to do will satisfy the government, there we go. Saved again. So yeah, so there are different options. It's just a lot, but all of this is like up in the air. We just don't know. If you follow other people, follow this account, I'll keep you updated, so you get an attorney's perspective. I was a media lawyer for like a decade or so I'm still hopeful. I think we're gonna do it. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. We got this.